I've always loved exploring caves. The darkness, the quiet. There's something almost peaceful about it. But this one trip, I learned just how wrong curiosity can go. It started with a small group of friends and me. We had discovered an old cave system a few hours outside the city. Nobody really knew where the tunnels led. They were said to be abandoned mining shafts, but the thrill of it was too tempting. We set out in the afternoon, headlamps strapped to our helmets, backpacks filled with essentials, and cameras ready to capture our adventure. The cave mouth was narrow, almost hidden by overgrown bushes. As soon as we stepped in, the air grew cold, damp, and smelled faintly of rot. About an hour in, we came across a fork in the tunnel. One path looked well-trodden, the other barely noticeable, almost as if it had been forgotten for decades. Of course, I suggested we go down the less obvious path. My friends weren't thrilled, but eventually agreed. The tunnel was narrow, forcing us to crouch. Our headlamps flickered slightly as we moved deeper. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing in the silence. At one point, I thought I saw movement at the edge of my light, but there was nothing there, just shadows dancing on the walls. We reached a small chamber, barely enough space to stand. That's when we heard it. A soft whisper, like someone breathing, coming from the far side of the chamber. My friends froze. I whispered, "It's just the wind, right?" But the sound wasn't the wind. It was too deliberate, too close. Suddenly, one of my friends pointed to a narrow shaft leading downward. None of us had seen it before. Against my better judgment, I crawled in to explore. The shaft was tight, and the air felt heavy. Halfway through, I felt something brush against my arm, like fingers. Froze. The sound of breathing was now directly behind me. I scrambled back to the chamber. My friends were pale, staring at a wall where we had left our bags. One of the bags was moving. Slowly. As we watched in horror, it toppled over as if pushed. Without a word, we ran back toward the main tunnel. When we finally emerged, the sun was setting. Everything felt wrong, the air was too still. We swore never to speak of that chamber again. But sometimes when I'm alone, I swear I hear faint whispers echoing in my apartment. A man named Marcus. He had a fascination with spelunking and had explored caves all over the country. One weekend, he joined a guided expedition into a massive limestone cave system in the mountains. The guide warned them about the Echo Tunnel, a narrow passage where any sound seemed to linger, distorted and amplified. Most of the group laughed it off. But Marcus was intrigued. When they reached the tunnel, he noticed something odd. Every sound he made seemed wrong. His footsteps echoed in strange, offbeat rhythms. The guide said it was just the cave acoustics, but Marcus felt like something was listening. Halfway through the tunnel, he turned a corner and froze. A figure, tall, dark, featureless, was standing at the far end. He blinked and it vanished. But then the echo of his own voice called out, repeating things he hadn't said. Panic set in. He tried to call for help, but the echo shouted back answers to questions he hadn't asked. The other guides didn't hear it. It was like the tunnel was alive and mimicking him, mocking him. Marcus ran, tripping over rocks, hearing the echoes chase him down the narrow passage. By the time he reached the exit, he was breathless and shaking. He thought it was over. Until that night. He swore he could hear the echo in his apartment. Words from the cave repeated in his mind, even when he was asleep. Sometimes, he even woke to whispers answering questions he hadn't asked. He never went caving again. His last story is perhaps the most terrifying. A woman named Claire had been caving for years. She considered herself experienced, fearless even. One day, she decided to explore a newly opened cave system that was advertised as uncharted and mysterious. Claire started alone, wanting to test her skills. The entrance was wide, welcoming, almost inviting. But as she moved deeper, the walls grew jagged, the tunnels tight. Her headlamp illuminated strange markings on the walls, scratches like claws, though no animal could have reached them. After several hours, she came to a large chamber. Her light caught on something shiny, a small metal box partially buried in the dirt. Curious, she opened it. Inside were several old candles and a notebook, pages filled with handwriting she couldn't understand. Suddenly, her light flickered. She tapped it, but it died. She was plunged into complete darkness. Panic rose, but she had a spare flashlight, until that failed too. In the darkness, she heard faint footsteps echoing behind her. Not animal, not human, but something moving in the shadows. She tried to retrace her steps, but the tunnels seemed different. Hallways twisted, ceilings lowered, walls closed in. The sounds of dripping water and soft breathing grew louder. Then a whisper right by her ear said, "You shouldn't be here." Claire ran blindly, tripping over rocks, scraping her arms on jagged walls. Image 5. Vanished exit. Finally she found an exit, or at least she thought she did. She emerged on the other side of the mountain, hours from where she started. But when she looked back, the entrance she had come through had vanished. Claire never caved again. And some nights, she wakes to hear soft scratching at her window, as if something is still waiting for her in the dark.